Okay, so I'm just recording myself, not you. So lie down onto your mats on this rather gloomy, let's say July day, this rather gloomy July day. So settle down onto your mats. And we're going to do a few things, sort of easing out the neck things. So, but I think before we do any of that, I'd just like you to arrive on your back. It could be with your knees bent. It could be with your legs long. So whichever is more comfortable. And just maybe take a few moments to let yourself settle and to see how your body feels. So sometimes even just this lying down onto the floor, letting the back of the shoulders rest on the floor, letting the back of the head settle, even just that can start to give us this opportunity to undo tension in the shoulders. The first thing I'd like you to do is just going really sort of tentatively with this, is to let your head roll from the center to the right and back to the center, and do this a few times. So normally we roll our head from side to side, but I'd like you to just roll from the center to the right and then back to the center. And use this movement to see how does it feel? How does, it's going to be the right side of your neck feel as your head rolls towards the right. So just really noticing. How does the right shoulder feel? And also how does the left side feel? So once or twice more, letting your head roll from the center to the right. And then you're going to do the same thing moving towards the left. So rolling from the center towards the left, letting your head roll. And again, keep very much within a comfortable range of movement. So you're not trying to go as far as you can. You're just letting your head comfortably roll from the center to the left and back to the center. And you're seeing how it feels. How does it feel to let the head roll in this direction? So hopefully rolling the head in these two directions just gives us a sense of if there is tension in the neck and shoulders, perhaps, you know, a little bit more of a sense of where that tension may be. And then what I'd like you to do, which some of us did a few weeks ago, is to bring your fingers, your hands, up to the back of your neck, and you're just going to use your finger tips or whatever you like to just massage a little bit along the back of your neck, either side of the spine. So you can press your fingertips into the muscle either side of the spine. You can circle a little bit, you can press, you can go down into the sort of tops of the shoulders, either side of the neck, either side of the base of the neck. So those muscles can get very knotted up. And you can also go up into the base of the skull. So these little movements, little circling, little pressing movements, they're so helpful because they start to, they certainly feel like they increase the blood flow to these areas where everything can feel stiff. So just a little bit more massaging, pressing, circling in your own time. And again, it helps us to just understand perhaps where we're feeling tight or discover places we didn't even know are feeling tight. And then let your arms come to rest on the floor. And come back to letting your head roll from side to side. And this time let the head go to the right and to the left. And see how that feels. Rolling the head to the right and to the left. And from rolling your head to the right and to the left, find a comfortable place to settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And if your legs are long, you're now going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then you're going to start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice. And just again, see how this movement feels. So it may be today that actually you're not feeling at all stiff around your neck and shoulders, but it might be that you're feeling tight in your lower back. or into one of your hip joints or around the back of your pelvis. So just notice what you feel in this movement. And keep it easy, keep it comfortable. So all these little things we do on our back at the beginning of class, most weeks, we should just keep them easy, enjoyable. Now, pause in the middle, keep your knees bent, and cross your arms over your chest like you're giving yourself a hug. And then you're going to start to rock again, but now let your elbows and your knees and your head all rock to the right and to the left. So yeah, that's it. With your arms crossed over your chest, can you roll or rock more now from side to side? That's it, across the whole of the back of the body. And still keep this easy, keep it enjoyable. Just how does it feel to roll towards the right and roll towards the left? And we're actually in a moment going to come all the way over onto one side. So you could actually choose, I won't say lefts and rights, you could choose which side you feel more drawn to coming to lie on. And you can then roll all the way onto that side. And you're going to lie on your side with your cushion under the side of your head and your knees bent. And just release your arms. So have your arms comfortable. So the bottom arm on the floor, the top arm just resting comfortably. Yeah. So if you were going to go to sleep, we're not going to just on your side. Yeah, think about that. So if you haven't got a cushion under the side of your head and you need a cushion under the side of your head, now would be the time to get one. So what you're going to do, just maybe have another breath or two here, is we're going to do a few different things, sort of rolling things from our side. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just try and leave your arms in a relaxed way. They're going to follow the other movements, and you're going to see how it feels to roll from the side of your head towards the back of your head. And let your shoulders and your arms just sort of follow this. So it's not a huge movement, rolling from the side of your head towards the back of your head. And you can let the rest of your body come along as much or as little as it wants to. That's it. So you're not doing anything in particular with your arms. You're just letting the arms stay relaxed, and you're seeing how it feels to roll from the side of your head towards the back of your head. And do that 2 or 3 more times. And in these ones, we're just trying to let the head be as heavy as possible on the floor. That's it. Letting the head roll. Good. Now, roll back onto the side of your head. And you're going to lengthen your arms out at shoulder height in front of you. So you've got one hand on top of the other. Now, what I'd like you to do is work with your top elbow staying straight. So you're going to slide your top hand beyond the fingers of the bottom hand. And then you're going to start sliding your top hand up the bottom arm. But you're going to stop before your elbow bends. Yeah? So again, you may be rolling from the side of your head towards the back of your head. That's it, but you're keeping your top elbow straight. So you're only going as far as you can with your top elbow staying straight, but you can go forwards, so your hand slides beyond the bottom hand, and you can go the other way, so your hand is sliding up your arm. Good. And just see how this feels. That's nice. Very nice. Now, as you're doing this movement, notice what's happening lower down. Is there any sliding happening with your knees? And it's absolutely fine if it is, but I'd just like you to notice. So it might be as your arm slides forwards and back. So forwards is away from your body, back is towards your body. It might be that your top knee is also sliding a little bit. Now, you can then start to make this movement bigger. You can then start to let your top elbow bend. So you can slide your top hand across your chest and bring that arm towards the floor behind you. Now, you might then want to let that top knee also slide more, and even let your top knee come up towards the ceiling to help you bring your arm onto the floor behind you. And then come back again. So bring that top arm back again. So remember, keep this easy. And that probably means letting your top knee slide, letting your top knee lift if you like, to help you bring your top arm towards the floor behind you. And you don't have to bring your top arm onto the floor behind you. But if you want to, lifting that top knee towards the ceiling can help facilitate that movement. Yeah. And it really depends how we're feeling. It might be that we can roll towards the back of our head, sweep that top arm across the front of the chest onto the floor behind us without the knees having to move that much. But just maybe once or twice more, explore this movement. If you like to stay in the twist, so the twist would be when your arm is on the floor behind you and possibly your knee is lifted a little bit or not so much. If you like to stay there for a couple of breaths, do so. It could feel quite tight at this point in the day, so you might not want to. And then the next time, maybe sort of roll out of that twist and roll back into it one more time and let the knee lift so that you can roll all the way onto your back again. So could you, that's it, could you sort of follow, that's it, follow the movement to its natural conclusion, taking you back onto your back. And just lie on your back for a moment. Yeah, so lie on your back for a moment, have a couple of quiet breaths on your back. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from your back, you're going to roll onto the other side. So come to settle yourself on side 2, again with your cushion under the side of your head if you want. So what you might notice in this one is as you start to roll onto the back of your head, you may need the cushion less and it may even get into your way. But when you're lying on your side, it might be quite nice. So settle yourself on side 2, knees bent, that's it, arms just comfortable. Comfortable arms wherever you like them. So remember, the first movement is rolling from the side of your head towards the back of your head. And the arms are not doing anything in particular, they're just following. Aditi, I wonder if your knees could come a little bit higher up, my lovely. Yeah, knees a bit higher up, and that's it, and feet further forwards, good. Good, so the knees are at a right angle to your body. And the feet can then sort of come forwards a little bit on the mat. So your heels, and then you might have your feet slightly further forwards, I think, on the mat. You could do. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Good. So a few times that movement where we're rolling from the side of the head towards the back of the head. Mel, you could slide your feet forwards on the mat a bit as well. I like the pink socks. Very nice. That's it. Good. Good. So rolling from the side of your head towards the back of your head. Letting the arms follow. Just sort of seeing how that movement feels. And then we'll do the second movement, which is where we lengthened the arms out at shoulder height in front of you. And you are keeping your top elbow straight, and then you're sliding that top hand forwards beyond the fingertips of the bottom hand, and then towards you, up your arm, but stopping before your elbow bends. So this movement is really useful because it helps us to connect the movement of the arms with the torso and the trunk. So sometimes we have shoulder problems because we're moving the arms a lot and not connecting that to the rest of our body. So that's why this is so helpful, and keeping the elbow straight means that as you slide your arm, your rib cage is moving with your arm. And you might notice, some of you, that your top knee is also sliding. Yeah, a little bit forwards and back. And so whenever you want to go a bit further with this movement, then you start to let your top elbow bend. So you can sweep your top hand across the front of your chest, bring your arm towards the floor behind you. Let your top knee slide, let your top knee lift if that's helpful. if you want to bring your arm nearer to the floor, let the top knee come up. Francis, I think maybe your knees need to come a little bit higher up and your feet come forwards a bit. That's it, yeah. Good, very nice. So just playing around with this a few more times, that movement of sweeping the top arm up the bottom arm, across the front of your chest, towards the floor behind you, seeing what needs to happen with that top knee. Yes, and Marie, when you come there, you could then see, yes, you could leave your arm there and see, can you drop the knee a bit? So that's it. If you lift the knee to bring your arm towards the floor, then you might see, once the arm is settled, can you then drop the knee back down towards the other knee a bit more? Good. Yes, so if you like having a breath or two in the twist with your arm on the floor behind you, then do so. Because in a moment we'll be rolling back onto our backs. Yeah, so just finishing up on this side and then rolling onto your back. And when you come onto your back, just for a moment, maybe what would you want to do when you come onto your back? So it could be like lengthen your legs out on the floor. It could be fold your knees into your chest. So I think in my little book, it had fold the knees into the chest and then take the legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. But you might want to lengthen your legs on the floor. And you might want to take your arms and your legs up to the ceiling. That's it, lovely Rosie. Circle the ankles, shake out the legs. Very nice. So in a moment, we're going to come off our backs. But before we do so, we're going to revisit the rocking movement where we were giving ourselves a hug. So you're giving yourself a hug, your knees are bent, your feet are standing on the floor. You're rocking from side to side across the back of your body. That's it. So let the knees and the elbows and the head all rock in the same direction. Yes, so if you stand your feet on the floor now, Bryony, that's it. And give yourself a hug. So cross your arms over your chest. And then that's it. Rock from side to side, giving yourself a hug, letting the knees and the elbows and the head all rock to the right and to the left. And from doing this, you're going to eventually rock all the way onto one side, have a few breaths there, and then we're going to come onto hands and knees. So yesterday when I was talking to Cam about this class and asking him what does he like best for releasing tension in the neck and shoulders, and he said cat and forward bend. So we're going to come on to hands and knees. We're going to do some cat, we're going to move, and then we're going to stay in the cat poses. And I think these are really good places to release tension. So once you're settled on hands and knees, big handprints under your shoulders, then start to round your back to the ceiling, dip your spine to the floor, and have this focus on releasing tension in the shoulders and the neck. So as we round the back to the ceiling, we can feel wide across the back of the shoulders. We let the head hang. As we dip the spine down to the floor, feel the shoulder blades slide down the back. The gaze travels forwards on the floor, but not too much. Yeah. So just keep moving between these two possibilities. And all the time thinking about how can you use this movement to help release your neck and shoulders. Of course, your lower back as well. If where you're feeling tight is your lower back, then absolutely these are really good for that too. What I'd like you to do is then stay in the movement. So maybe stay first of all, rounding your back to the ceiling, letting your head hang. Have maybe a cycle or two of breath there. Just really, that's very nice. Yes, really see how does it feel to stay there, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then you can alternate dipping your spine down. And how does it feel to stay there and let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And maybe one more time, because I always find it slightly more useful, round your back again, wide across the back of the shoulders, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then just sit back for a moment over your heels. You can be in down kneeling or up kneeling. Do tell me if it's too dark. It looks a bit dark. Shake your hands out because we're going to do a little bit of a sequence. So when you've given your hands a shake out, come back onto hands and knees. So we're going to move through dog pose and then a forward bend and then come down through a squat. So Sally, good for, good for those countryside walks. And then back onto hands and knees. So tuck your toes under on hands and knees. Maybe just do a little bit of rocking forwards and back to start with your toes tucked under. So just preparing ourselves to go into dog pose. And if we're thinking about our shoulders in dog, tuck the toes under, rock your hips back over your heels, settle here for a moment and just see if you can let the shoulders soften and undo. And then as you pick your knees up off the floor, keep leaning into your arms, but trying to stay wide across the back of your shoulders. And when you come into dog, what you may start to feel far more is the back of your legs. So just in this first dog pose, you can be bending one knee, bending both knees. And we won't stay in dog pose too long because I'd like us to come into the forward bend and have this chance to release our neck and shoulders here. So from dog pose, start to walk your hands in towards your feet. So you end up in your forward bend. And you can bend your knees as much as you like. You could rest your elbows on your thighs if your lower back needs some support. And here, really feel, can you let your head go? Can you let your arms hang? Can you let your shoulders sort of roll down towards your ears? Have a breath or two there. And that's very nice. Yes, some of you are shaking your heads out and that looks nice. And then from your forward bend, you're going to start to bend your knees forwards over your feet. So you're coming down through a squat, and it's fine if your heels come up. Yeah, because we're going to roll through the tops of our feet, back onto hands and knees. And you're going to then lengthen each leg out behind you. So we're back on hands and knees. We're lengthening each leg out behind us, tucking our toes under. And then we're going to come back to cat again. So settle on hands and knees. Come back to your rounding and dipping movements. Rounding your back to the ceiling. Dipping your spine to the floor. And I've probably said this before because quite often these movements are called cat when we round our back and cow when we dip our spine. But I'm sure those of you who've got cats like me know that cats can do all sorts of incredible things with their spines. So even not even just restricted to these two movements. Good, so a little bit more rounding and dipping and just all the time feeling, can we release the shoulders, can we release the neck, and of course the lower back. And then we're going to do all of that little sequence again, but we're going to start with plank pose and from plank move into dog. Now I know plank is a little bit more challenging on the shoulders, so we don't have to stay there long. Organise yourself so your shoulders are over your wrists. And yeah, and then from here, lengthen one leg back behind you, tuck your toes under, and then add the other leg in. So we're coming into our long length of plank. Our gaze is down, just forward from our fingertips. See if you can let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then from plank pose, as you exhale, send your pelvis up and back into dog pose. Now it could be quite a long dog, so that you could then walk your feet in a little bit to make it a more comfortable length. And then bending one knee, bending the other in your dog pose. Having a couple of breaths there. And then from dog pose again, we'll walk our hands into our feet. So we'll come back into another forward bend. all the way into our forward bend. Settling our weight into our feet. If you like, bending your knees, resting your elbows on your thighs. But whatever you're doing in your forward bend, this focus on letting the head go, letting the arms go, letting the shoulders give their weight to the ground. Exhaling all of your weight in your feet. And then again, starting to bend your knees forwards over your feet, letting your pelvis come down towards your squat. Fine if your heels come up. We're all through onto the tops of our feet. And this time, untuck your toes and fold your hips back over your heels into child pose. And just a couple of breaths in child pose. If you're not happy there, we're not going to be in child pose for long. Just a couple of breaths in child and seeing if you can let your shoulders soften and undo. So where would you have your elbows? Usually quite wide apart to let the shoulders feel soft. So you'll feel wide across the back of the neck. One of the other things in child pose, it's for the back of the neck to feel really long. If we rest our forehead on the ground near to our hairline, so rather than near to the eyebrows, nearer to the hairline, can give the neck a bit more of a chance to lengthen out if it's feeling tight. Good. And from child pose, we're actually then going to slither forwards onto our belly, which you may or may not like. So as some of you know, we've been doing this quite regularly in these classes because it really promotes, it's really good for our breathing to lie on our belly. So lie down onto your belly. Let's see, have your arms to start with wherever you like. So yeah, lie on your belly, arms wherever you like. So it could be your forehead on the back of your hands if you like, or just, yeah, it doesn't really matter to start with. Could be the side of your head on the floor if you prefer. Give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. See if you can settle yourself on your belly. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then I'd like you to organise yourself. So you're lying with your left arm down by the side of your body and your right hand standing on the floor underneath your right shoulder. So this means that your right elbow is not on the floor, the hand is on the floor. And then have your forehead on the floor if you can, if that's okay. Good. And then what you're going to start to do is start to press into your right hand. So as you press into your right hand, your right shoulder will start to lift a little bit. And you can let yourself roll on your forehead. So your head rolls towards the right, yeah? So you're pressing into your right hand, you're letting the right shoulder lift, you're letting yourself roll on your forehead. So your head turns towards the right, and just do that a few times. If you're not finding it particularly easy to press into your hand, you may need your hand a little bit further down. So when I say the hand is under the shoulder. And what you're trying to feel here is this difference between what happens when you press into the hand, and pressing means that your shoulder starts to lift. And then when you stop pressing, yeah, nothing happens, or you roll back onto the forehead. Good. Why don't you swap hands and try the same thing on the other side? That's it. So stand the left hand on the floor underneath your shoulder. Good. That's very nice. Lovely. Right arms down by the side of your body. You start with your forehead on the floor. As you press into your left hand, your left shoulder lifts. That's it. Good. You roll on your forehead. Very nice. Good. You could then have both hands on the floor and be going from side to side. So pressing into one hand and then into the other. Yeah. So it's this little side to side movement. And you might want to stay with that, pressing into one hand, pressing into the other. But you could also pause in the center and press into both hands and let your head come off the floor. So you come into a little sort of cobra pose. Yes, so your elbows move back. And so some of you, this might be quite small, and then come back and do a bit more pressing from side to side. So it's quite nice to alternate between pressing into one hand, pressing into the other, rolling across your forehead, and then pausing in the middle, pressing into both hands, letting the head lift. That's it, drawing the elbows back behind you. So coming into a little cobra. For some of you, if it's easy, it might be a bigger cobra movement, but just keeping it easy. So you maybe just do that one more time. Once more, come back to rolling from side to side. And then if you like, that's it, pressing into your hands, letting your head lift from the floor. Doesn't have to be a big movement. Very nice. And then from here, you're going to fold back into child pose. Have a couple of breaths in child pose. And if you prefer being in kneeling to child pose, that's absolutely fine. Sorry, I was just checking what we were doing. So a couple of breaths in child pose or kneeling, whichever you prefer. And then from here, we're going to come on and from hands and knees, step 1 foot forwards into a lunge. So from hands and knees, it doesn't matter which foot, we're going to do both sides. So step your foot forwards. And then it might be that you need to walk the other knee back a little bit. So we're coming into lunge. We've got our front knee over our front heel. We've got, well, you don't have to, I've got my back toes tucked under, but you could have your back toes flat, see what works better for you. And so we're just having a few breaths here, thinking about this opening out through the front of the back leg thigh. And you can support yourself as much as you like through your hands. So it could be the flats of your hands or your fingertips or your knuckles. So we've got support through our front leg foot. If the toes are tucked under, that gives us a little bit more support. And support through the hands. We'll just have another couple of breaths here. And whenever you're ready, you can then swap sides. You might want to ease out. So it is quite nice to do this easing out one where you untuck your back toe and you rock back a little bit. So your chest stays close to your front leg thigh, you look back, you rock back a little bit like that. And then you can swap sides on hands and knees. So bring the other foot forwards. And I might come and have a little look at you in your lunges. So organising yourself on side 2, front knee over your front heel. I'm just going to come and have a look at you. Very nice. Breathing. Wonderful. Back toes tucked under or flat. Giving the weight of your pelvis down to the floor. And we're looking for that opening through the front of the back leg thigh. If it feels too intense, that's when you really want to be using, support through the arms, the support of the tucked toes, and obviously coming out whenever you've had enough. So when you are ready to come out, you rock back. You can ease out, untuck those back toes. You can ease back a little bit. And then come to hands and knees and have a little lengthen out in dog pose. We're going to do a couple of things and come back to a lunge variation. So plant your hands down, tuck your toes under, exhale, rock your hips back over your heels, pick your knees up. See how dog pose feels now. So remember, we've got this focus around the neck and shoulders. So in your dog pose, you're trying to rest through your arms as much as possible. Bend your knees, one knee, both knees, walking on the spot. So little by little, as we keep coming in and out of dog, the backs of the legs will start to release. which means perhaps we can soften a bit more through the shoulders. And in your own time, coming back down onto hands and knees. So one of the things which is helpful for necks and shoulders is twisting movements, which release the rib cage. Now we're going to do this one from hands and knees, this thread the needle one, where one arm comes under. Now you might see how, you've got to see here, how does the side of your neck and your head feel resting on the side of your head? Because you could keep this hand on the floor, but if your neck's okay, you can take this top arm up and onto the back of your pelvis. But you just need to make sure your neck is happy with that movement. It can be a really helpful movement for the neck. So from hands and knees, one arm is going to slide underneath. We come down to here. So this part is fine for everyone. It's just the taking this arm up. You know, just check that your neck is happy with that. Let's have a look. But I think this is I find this a really helpful twist because it really gets into, that's it, the upper back. Very nice. Good. So you have a couple of breaths in that twist and this to come out of it. That's very nice. So you can come on to, yes, back to hands and knees, and you can try the movement on the other side. So it's your swap arms now, so the other arm is sliding underneath. And Rosie, I very much like that little variation you were doing, taking your arm up and then under and repeating it. So I shall be having a play around with that myself. Good. Good. So yeah, seeing how it feels on side two. And you know, as you know, we're all so different, so we have to, yeah, adapt these movements as we need to. Good. So a couple of breaths on side two and then coming out. And so after these twisted ones, I always feel I need to do something that's very symmetrical. So what in fact we're going to do, you'll be thrilled to hear, is come back to plank pose again. And particularly to this feeling of the support we get through the bones of our arms in plank pose. So with your shoulders over your wrists, again, see how it feels to come back into plank pose. We did it a little bit earlier. One leg lengthens back and then the other. Feeling long in plank pose, our gaze down, just slightly forwards of our fingertips. And here we're trying to feel supported through the bones of the arms. So it's not just about the muscles here. There's obviously quite a lot going on the abdominal muscles. You don't have to stay there too long. Good. Yes, you can come down when you've had enough. But one of the reasons I wanted you to try, so maybe just watch what we're going to do now. One of the reasons I wanted you to try your lunge is because we're going to come back into lunge, and we're going to do, maybe if I do it this way, we're going to come back into lunge and we're going to do the lunge twist. And I find it really helpful to use my arm in a very similar way to plank. So the hand is going to stand down here. So if I come this way, your hand is going to replace your missing foot. You're turning. And then in this one, go all the way round. So we're leaning down through our arm, very much like in plank. And then the back knee can come up and we can reach forwards with this arm. So this is quite a strong movement. But if we can use this supporting arm, a bit like in plank, we feel much more steady and stable. So we're going to, let's see, let's step the left foot forwards in our lunge, unless you can remember which foot you had forwards before, which I can't remember anything these days. So you've got your left foot forwards, your right foot back. So your right hand is going to come to plant on the floor. Now at this point, if your hand doesn't come flat on the floor, this is when you might want a book or something like that under your hand. It could be quite helpful here to be able to have a flat hand on the floor. You could be on your fingertips or your knuckles. It's just not as steady as the hand being flat. And then you're going to bring your right hand onto the back of your pelvis and start turning towards the left. So you're turning your shoulders and your rib cage towards the left. That's it, your hands on the back of your pelvis. You can stop at any point, so that would be a point you could stop. If you wanted to go further, you tuck your back toe under, you pick your back knee off the floor. So that again is a bit like lunge, no, plank pose, sorry. And then you reach forwards with your top arm. So there's this long line from your fingertips to your back heel, sort of a long diagonal. Have a couple of breaths there. You don't need to stay for long. Remember, you can be leaning through that right arm and hand, like in plank pose, as well as through your front foot. And then untwist. Now, I think this one is really nice to do that easing back. So untuck the back toe, ease back out of it, yeah? This one, so when we come, yeah, easing back. And then we'll swap sides. So we're going to bring the right foot forwards. And we're thinking about how can we stand the left hand on the floor. We've got this hip width distance between the foot and the hand. This left arm becomes a bit like a plank pose arm. You're turning towards your front leg. So your right hand is coming onto the back of your pelvis. Good. Good. Stop at this point. You've turned your shoulders and your ribs to the right. If you want to go on, you tuck your toes under, your back knee comes off the floor. And then you reach your arm forwards, maintaining the twist. You're still looking towards the right. Breathing yourself long from your fingertips to your back heel. Very nice. And then yes, you can undo that, untwist. You can ease back. Let your head go. Good. Very well done. So you could just sit back for a moment, give your hands a little bit of a shake out in sitting down kneeling or in up kneeling. And then we're going to come through dog pose and a forward bend up into standing. So when your hands are ready, settling your hands down onto the floor. It'd be quite nice to do quite a sort of quiet dog pose here and just really notice how dog pose feels now. How do your shoulders feel in dog pose? Remember to bend the knees or bend one knee at a time. But yes, is there more of a possibility to let the shoulders soften? That's it, Aditi, well done, good. Very nice, very nice. And from your dog, whenever you're ready, you can be walking your hands in towards your feet, into a forward bend. And have a few breaths in your forward bend. Remember again, you can bend your knees, you can rest your elbows on your thighs. Make sure your feet are hip width apart. It can be a generous hip width, that's fine. Good, let your head go. Feel all of your weight in your footprints, particularly in the heels, those heels really rooted into the ground. Maybe another cycle of breath in your forward bend, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then as you exhale, rolling up into standing. If your lower back needs support, walk your hands up your front of your legs. Otherwise, let your arms hang. And we will arrive in standing. So we're going to do some sort of twisty, some things to release shoulders and arms, and then we'll move on to some balances. So first thing we're going to do, we'll probably do quite a lot of this one, swinging the arms, letting the feet move. So I always find this one is really good for the shoulders and the neck. But it's interesting because it always makes me also think of someone I taught years ago who was incredibly flexible, and she said, well, this, when we come to do this, this is where I feel the most tension. So, you know, we're all so different. So just noticing how your body feels in this. And I always think as much as possible in this, it's just enjoying the freedom of the movement. Not trying to do anything particular or precise. I like to slap my arms onto my body to wake me up. Okay, a couple more times. Just feel in this one how everything, all of you, is moving to the right and to the left. Because we're going to, in a moment, do a couple of twists where we're trying to settle the pelvis down. So settle down, look at your feet hip width apart and parallel, and then bring your hands onto the rim of your pelvis, so you can feel these sort of bony bits, the rim of the pelvis. So we're just going to try and do some sort of simple twists where we don't move now below the waist. So it's about trying to free up the ribs. So from having your hands on the rim of your pelvis, bring your hands to your low ribs and just see, can you turn a little bit? So you're not turning below the waist, you're turning from the waist up. You're trying to feel your ribs move. Good. And then you can go a little bit higher. You can bring your hands onto your shoulders and do the same thing, turning from the waist up. So you're sort of feeling your shoulders moving now. You might feel a little bit more movement here. And then the same thing, but bringing your fingers onto the crown of your head. So you can feel the head moving. But everything from the waist up is turning a little bit to the right and to the left. But it also feels a bit unnatural. Yeah? So we're mobilizing the ribs, but it might feel a bit strange. So then let that go and come back to this one, swinging your arms and just, let the arms be really loose and free. Good. And then once more, we're going to settle the feet down. So let this go. Look at your feet, settle your feet down hip width apart and parallel. You can breathe in and take your arms wide, and then you're going to give yourself a hug. So like we did on our backs, give yourself a hug, drop your shoulders down away from your ears, and then bring your arms on into eagle arms. So this one, which you all know. Now, what would it be like to do a little bit of a twist here? So to leave your pelvis where it is, just to turn your elbows slightly to the right and to the left. And Aditi or anyone else, if this one creates too much tension across the back of the shoulders, then do release your arms. Now look at your arms here. I was going to say to have a particular arm on top, but I didn't. So just have a look and make a note which arm you have on top, so we can do the other side in a moment. Because you're going to step your feet a bit wider apart. So you can say left arm or right arm to yourself. And then you're going to, letting your knees bend, fold forwards with your arms in your eagle arms position, this sort of crisscross position. And at any point you can let your arms go in that forward bend. Yes, and Linda, if your lower back, yes, if your lower back needs the support, you could release your arms first and come to rest here, like this. Good. So if you're in your forward bend, let your arms go if you haven't already. Be floppy in your forward bend. That's it, Lynn. Rest your elbows on your thighs. Good. And then keeping your feet as wide as they are, roll up into standing, or then walk your hands up your thighs. Yeah. So it's really important. Just, sometimes our lower backs can, feel tight and we need that support, and it's really important. So stay here, because we can just do these little side lengthening movements here. One arm comes up, our pelvis, if it's comfortable, shifts in the direction of the raised arm. The other arm's heavy and floppy. So I'm just going to see if you can remember at this point which arm you had on top in your eagle arms, so we can do the other side in a moment. Okay, so just once, maybe more on each side with this one. And then we'll come back to give your legs a shake out. Come back to your feet being hip width apart. Let the shoulders drop. Let a breath come in, take the arms wide. And then give yourself a hug with the other arm on top, if you can remember. If you can't, it's not the end of the world, but it might be that as you move into your eagle arms, as you come on into this one, you might think, oh, this feels like I've done it before. And then, can you do your little twisting movement? So can you leave in your pelvis and not moving below the waist? Can you turn your elbows a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left? And then if it's okay for your lower back, you're going to go into the forward bend with your arms like this. Lynn, you're going to, yes, take your feet wider, but take your feet wide as the narrow edge of your mat. Lynn, you're going to release your arms to go forwards. If it's okay for your back, keep your arms crisscrossed like this. Folding forwards, sinking into your heels. Then you can release your arms and rest your elbows on your thighs. Good. Good. And it's up to you. You can keep your arms in eagle arms for a few breaths, or you can release them whenever you want to. Good. Keep really sinking into your heels in that forward bend. Let a breath come in. Release your arms if you haven't done so already. Let a breath come in. As you exhale down into your heels, roll up into standing, or Lynn, walk your hands up the fronts of your legs, back into standing. Yes, and if you're doing sort of some swinging arms there, I was going to, which we will do, which is very nice. Let's just briefly do this one again, where your feet are still wide. Come into your side lengthening movements, shifting the pelvis to the right and to the left. Okay. And then yes, as you were doing, Kate, it might be quite nice to then, yeah, come back to, I think it was Kate, yes, come back. It was Kate, yes. Come back to swinging your arms to the right and to the left. Or letting the whole of you move, letting the whole of yourself move in this loose swinging twist. So we're going to come now into a few balancing poses. And you know, balancing is this intention to cultivate steadiness in our bodies and our minds. But sometimes, you know, the reality isn't always live up to that intention, but the intention is the important thing. So we're going to start quite simply with this one where we rock our weight forwards onto the balls of both feet. So at any point, if you're feeling unsteady, you could bring your fingertips to a wall. So we've still got 2 feet on the floor, but we're bringing our weight into the balls of the feet. And so you do have a wall beside you if you need it. Just repeat this one, going up onto the balls of your feet and back down a few times, because it's really good work for the feet. So we're getting flexibility in the toes and also some strength through the arches of the feet. See this time if you can stay. Can you stay up on the balls of your feet? Good. Very nice. Lovely. Come back down. Give each leg a little shake out. So this time we'll try staying up there and then taking the arms up. So settle the feet down. So it's always good to have a look at our feet and then to bring our gaze forwards. So to focus our gaze on a point somewhere in front of us, not too fixed, sort of soft gaze. And then shifting the weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. And then let your arms float up by your sides. So the arms come up towards by the sides of your head, but quite wide so your shoulders can drop. That's it. Yeah, if you feel very steady, you can bring your arms sort of narrower to the sides of your head if your shoulders are happy with that. And just a breath or two here, balancing on the balls of the feet. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Excellent. Yes, come down, have a little shake out. And I'm just going to show you by coming a bit nearer. Some of you know this one. We're coming to the balance. We're going to touch our hands over our head in this mudra, Hakini mudra. So here, and then we bring the hands in front of the chest. So it's always quite interesting, this one, to be balancing and trying to touch the fingers together without seeing them. And then they come here. So Yeah, this is one of my favourite balances at the moment. I'm quite steadying, which is what we all need at the moment. So from here, we're going to, first of all, bring our weight onto the balls of our feet. And then when we're ready, we're going to float the arms up. And then we're going to touch the pads of the fingers and thumbs together over the head, letting the shoulders drop. Good. You can have a cycle of breath there. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then slowly bringing the hands down, still in this mudra, so they come in front of your chest. The pads of the thumbs and fingers are touching. I quite like having my elbows out to the sides in this one. Good. See how it feels to stay here for another breath or two, or even three. And coming down when you're ready, releasing your arms, giving your legs a shake out. And we'll come down into a forward bend. So again, Lynn, make sure you rest your elbows on your thighs. So just with your feet hip width apart. So you're going to be looking down. You could slide your hands down your thighs, bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. You could release your arms and your head all the way down towards the floor. And bending your knees as much as you like. So it's really important to, yes, that's very nice, Aditi. You can do that sort of weeping willow movement if you want to sweep your arms to the right and to the left. It's really important that your lower back feels that it can release in a safe way. One of the things we do in the forward bend is to let the lower back lengthen out, but it needs to do that in its own time. Yeah, some of you I can see are bending your knees a lot, so your chest is coming close to your thighs, or even going into a squat, which can be very nice for the lower back. And then when you're ready, on an exhalation, roll back up into standing. So we're going to do this little sort of sequence of mini balances, which some of you are familiar with, but I'm going to show you first because not all of you are. So, and then we'll do it together. So the first one is we slide the foot back and we come onto the top of the toes. That's number one. And then from there, we come into like a little mini tree pose, and you could have your hands in prayer pose. And then from there, we bend our standing knee and we cross the other leg over, and the big toe could be on the floor. And we're trying to feel upright here. So this is the little sequence we're going to do. What I'd like you to do is you're going to decide which foot you're going to stand on first. And you're going to do that by settling both feet down, closing your eyes, rocking your weight from side to side, and just asking your legs, well, just seeing, is there one leg that you feel a bit more drawn to stand on? So neither of your legs may feel that they want to support you in a standing balance today. So if there's not an obvious choice, then you're just going to make a choice. And then you're going to open your eyes. So you're going to be shifting your weight onto the foot you're going to stand on. Come up onto the ball of the other foot. And then you're going to slide those toes back behind you. And then you're going to flip onto the top of your toes. And see, what's it like if you were to straighten that back knee a little bit more? My foot can sometimes cramp a bit, so just see how all of that feels. And then slide those toes back in towards you and let your knee turn out a little bit to the side so your foot can come onto your ankle, the sole of your foot on your ankle in a mini tree pose. And you could have some toes on the floor. And if it helps you to feel steady, bring your hands into prayer pose. So if you could have a few toes on the floor, your foot could be completely on your ankle. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then bring your toes back onto the floor. Bend your knee, bend your standing knee, so then you can then cross the other leg over that standing knee. And you're trying to still feel that you're upright here. It's quite easy at this point to lean forwards. And you might have your big toe on the floor, if that helps you. Dropping your tailbone. Very nice. Well done. So you can notice in that last little balance, you can have a little shake out. When we're balancing on a bent knee, it becomes much more muscular. So we feel that perhaps more around the shin and the ankle and into the hip joint. Let's settle for a moment in standing and then try the other side. So for a moment, just settle. Bring your hands onto the front of your body. Close your eyes. See if you can feel the movement of your breath in your body. And of course, when we're coming into balances, we also want to feel our breath in our body. So perhaps from feeling it now, maybe as we move into the balances, just looking, it's terribly dark. I'm not sure to put a light on. Let me know if you think I should. So yes, moving into the balances, let's just see if we can have a little bit more focus on our breathing. So you're going to start to open your eyes now, release your arms, start to shift your weight onto your other foot. Slide the foot you just stood on back behind you. Flip onto the top of your toes. Can you drop your shoulders and release your arms? Can you straighten your back knee a little bit? Good. And then slide those toes back in towards you. Let your knee turn out to the side a little bit so your sole of your foot can come onto your ankle. Maybe some toes on the floor, yes. And if you like, your hands could come into prayer pose, if that helps you feel steadier. And a breath or two in this mini tree pose. Have some toes on the floor if you like. Good. And then letting your toes come onto the floor, bending your standing knee, and then crossing that leg over the standing leg. Good. So it's a little bit like you're sitting down on an invisible stool, high stool. Hands in prayer pose. Your big toe could be on the floor if you needed that extra bit of security. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Good. And then come down, have a little shake out if you like. So we can do one final balance. We're going to come back to the final one of those balances. So this eagle legs one where we've got our leg crossed over, but we're going to do our arms first and then add our legs in, which yeah, you can do it either way, but I thought we'd do the arms first today. So settle your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. Let a breath come in, take your arms wide. Give yourself a hug with, let's see, I'm going to stand on my right foot first, so I've got my right arm on top. Yes. So depending, if you're going to stand on your left foot, so whichever foot you stood on first, you're going to go back to now. So if your left foot is the foot you're standing on, have your left arm on top. Doesn't matter too much. So if you're getting confused, don't worry too much at all. So from here, bring your arms into your eagle arms. And then shift your weight onto the foot you're going to stand on. Come up onto the ball of the other foot. And at this point, you're going to bend your standing knee. So again, remember, we're sort of sitting down on that invisible high stool. And then cross the other leg on top of your standing leg and see how it feels. We're very sort of gathered into our center here in this balance. We're trying to feel our shoulders are over our hips. There are versions of this where we lean forwards, but that's not what we're doing today. Dropping the tailbone, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then yes, coming out, having a shake out. So I generally find that it's more challenging to balance with a bent knee because it is much more muscular. It's rather than the support of our bones. So let's try the other side. Yes, when you've had a bit of a shake out, let's try the other side. So settle the feet down, hip width apart and parallel. Breathe in, take the arms wide. Exhale, give yourself a hug with the other arm on top. I'm completely confused now. It doesn't matter. Come up onto the ball of the foot you were just standing on, letting the other knee bend. up, sorry, no, come on into your eagle arms first. Then come up onto the ball of the foot you were just standing on, letting your knee bend. Your standing leg bend, and then crossing the other leg over. Dropping your shoulders, good. Seeing how it feels to balance on this bent knee on side two. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Beautiful. The shoulders drop down above the hips. Lovely. Okay. And then coming out, having a little shake out. And then one last thing, I thought from having the legs crossed over in the centre like that, I'd like you to take your feet a bit wider apart on the mat. And we're going to do a wide forward bend. I mean, you don't have to go massively wide. Again, Lynn, make sure you can rest your elbows on your thighs. So here, make sure your feet are still parallel. Really sink into your heels, the outer edges of your feet, the base of your big toe. As you fold forwards, bending your knees as much as you like. And I've brought my hands onto my ankles, but you could hold your elbows, you could rest your elbows on your thighs if your knees are bent. So it's fine if your fingers touch the floor, just make sure your weight stays in your heels. Letting your head fold forward, hang forwards. Good. Just having a few breaths there. If you feel that you want to shift your weight a little bit from side to side, bending one knee, bending the other, of course you can do that, as long as your knees are happy. Good. Lovely. Very nice. If you have done a bit of bending one knee, bending the other, you might just then want to settle in the centre, both legs doing the same thing, sinking into the heels, letting yourself fold forwards. If you're happy there, have another few breaths. If you're ready to come up, sinking into your heels, and then walking your hands up your thighs, or the rest of you just rolling up into standing. And yes, walking your feet back in, have a little shake out. So we're going to come down, time-wise, yes, slightly less time than I thought. We're going to come down into child pose through a forward bend and dog pose. If you wanted to do your one leg dog variations, you could do, or you could just come down quietly into child. So come to the back of your mat, so you've got the space for all of this. And just before you go forward, so you can feel yourself in standing. It's fine if you've gone forwards, don't worry. You can feel yourself in standing. And then on through your forward bend. Again, resting your elbows on your thighs if you need to. On, yes, feeling yourself in your forward bend, feeling yourself in your dog pose. Noticing how the shoulders are, how is the neck. And then folding down into child pose. Good. So, yes, taking your time wherever you are. If you're still in dog, that's fine. From child pose, we're going to come sit in kneeling to do a kneeling twist. So if kneeling is not comfortable for you and you need a cushion under the tops of your feet or between your bottom and your heels, or several cushions, that's absolutely fine. Now, I was going to sit in the middle of my mat, facing the long edge of your mat. It doesn't matter too much if you're on a carpet, but if, you know, you probably yeah, if you've got a hard floor beneath you, you might want to make sure you're this way organised. So I've just got a cushion. You know, these are just these options if kneeling isn't comfortable, but you will be comfortable kneeling, or cushion under the tops of your feet. And in kneeling, I think I might have done this last week. I just wanted you to do a little bit of, can you let your hands on your pelvis, let your pelvis, so see, rock forwards and back. So it's like these little cat movements in kneeling. So the pelvis rolls forwards, back arches forwards, the pelvis rolls back, the back rounds out. And you're doing these just to find your neutral, to find the place where your spine is long and free. And then we're going to see how it feels to turn, to do this kneeling twist, turning one way towards the left or the right. So your front hand comes to rest on the opposite thigh, your back fingertips onto the floor, letting the shoulders drop, having a couple of breaths. And we'll turn in both directions twice. So see how that first direction feels, then you can turn back to the center, see how it feels to go to the second side. Just trying to get a bit more light in here. Such a gloomy day. So turning to the second side for a couple of breaths. And then again back to side one. So we do this little kneeling twist twice to each side, with the focus on just keeping the shoulders as soft as possible, with this movement of the ribs turning to the right and then to the left, or vice versa. And then from kneeling, coming back to the center, and we're going to sit down. Let's see, we're going to sit down, doesn't matter either way. You're going to sit your bottom down to one side and your heels to the other into side sitting. And then sliding your legs apart into pinwheel. And very familiar. We're going to actually be doing our sort of pinwheel twist today, because I thought it's quite a nice way to get movement in the body. So just a little bit of circling here. It's okay, Bryony. So we've got, doesn't matter which way you're going, you've got your one knee coming out to the side with the foot in the center, and then the other knee to the center, the foot out to the side. And then what I'd like you to do today is to, so whichever knee is leaning out to the, going out to the side, you're going to lean onto that hand. So if you look at me, so yeah, you can really let your weight lean onto this, this hip joint. And then what we're going to start to do is just this movement where we're swinging our arm and slapping our hand onto the back of our shoulder. So sort of giving ourselves this little slap on the back. And you're letting yourself turn. So your pelvis is going to be turning, and your ribs and your shoulders. And you probably even feel that your weight shifts a bit in your feet. And then you can swing your arm and you can leave your hand on your shoulder. And you can see what's it like then to sink into your hand and let the pelvis come up off the floor. Yeah. And then come back down again. So let the arm come down. So repeat that whole movement. So swing your arm, slap your hand onto your shoulder, sink into your hand, and let your pelvis come up. And then come back down again. Good. So you're swinging your arm onto the back of your shoulder, sinking into your hand, letting your pelvis come up. And this time you could take your arm up towards the ceiling and let your gaze follow your fingertips. And then come back down. So your hand comes onto your shoulder, all the way back. We'll try that 2 more times on this side. So swing your arm around onto your shoulder, sink into your supporting hand and arm, lift your pelvis, and then let your arm come up towards the ceiling, look towards your fingertips, and then come back down, hand onto your shoulder. So one more time, we can swing the arm around, hand onto the shoulder, good. Sink into your supporting hand, lifting the pelvis, bringing your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Very nice. And then this time when you come down, you're going to fold forwards over this knee that's going out to the side. So down into your pinwheel forward bend. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Good. And just have a few quiet breaths in your pinwheel forward bend. Giving the weight of your body down to the ground. So it may be as your hands are resting on the floor, maybe your elbows, maybe even your forehead. Let another cycle of breath move through you. And then slowly walk your hands in towards you. And then we'll let our back leg, so bring your back leg on top of your front leg. Open your legs out in cobbler pose for a moment. See how that feels, just briefly. And then carry on. So take the top leg back over. So we're moving on to the second side of pinwheel. So hopefully you've arrived. And I always in this one I try not to say lefts and rights because it's good to go to the side that feels more comfortable first. So this might be the slightly less comfortable side. A little bit of circling here. So we've got one knee coming out to the side, the foot's in the center. The other knee's coming to the center, the foot to the side. You can be on the side of this foot or the top of your foot, whichever is more comfortable. Just a little bit of circling. So of course, in this position, we don't expect to feel completely level and balanced. And when we come into the twist, we're actually actively, so we're leaning onto the hand. So the knee that's going out to the side, we're leaning onto that hand and arm. And that means our weight is definitely coming into the top of this leg. You can start this little movement. So where we swing our arm, we slap, or give ourselves a slap on the back of the shoulder. Good. That's it. So I really like this little slapping movement, and this shoulder is supporting us, but I think possibly the slapping helps it to release a little bit as well. So from slapping yourself on your shoulder, you can keep your arm there. You can sink into your supporting hand and lift your pelvis. So you know where you're going on this side. You might have done anyway, but if you didn't, you know where you're going. So yes, you can swing your arm, you can sink into your supporting hand, you can lift your pelvis, you can take your fingertips up towards the ceiling, looking up. And then you rewind the movement. So the pelvis comes down, the hand comes onto the shoulder, you trail your fingers back. So again, the arm circles, hand onto your shoulder, sink into your supporting hand, lift the pelvis. Reaching up is keeping it all comfortable. Just looking for this sort of fluid movement. Good, coming back down. Trailing the arm back around. So perhaps once or twice more, you can trail your hand around, slap yourself on your back of your shoulder, sink into your hand, lift your pelvis, grow your arm up. And then coming back down again. Good. And one more time. So last time. And this time you're going to come into that forward bend for a few quiet breaths. So giving the weight of your body down to the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. If you find that quite a nice sort of quiet place to be, have a few more breaths there. Whenever you're ready to come out, you can walk your hands in towards you. You're going to take your arms back behind you so you can lengthen your legs out. And then before we finish lying down, I just wanted us to do a little bit of quiet sitting and breathing, but we're actually going to be doing these, well, first of all, an arm movement and then a movement for the neck. So you could be sitting with your back against the wall, that's fine. I'm sitting on a cushion, you could be kneeling, you could have your legs long and straight. You just need to have space that each arm could come out like this without, I was just thinking, without hitting anyone. It was supposed to be a bit sad that we should obviously all be in the same room together. But yes, we should have got the space to do this. So let's see. So our starting point, maybe I'll move back a little bit. Your starting point is resting with your hands on your thighs, with your palms down. And I will say lefts and rights in this. I'm going to talk you through this little sequence and we'll do it 3 times on each side. Some of you might remember this from a very long time ago. So you're going to let a breath leave you. As you exhale, you're going to let a breath leave you. As you inhale, you're going to bring your right arm out to the side. As you exhale, you're going to bring that hand onto your left shoulder and let your head fall forwards. As you breathe in, bring your arm back to the side, out to the side. And then as you exhale, your hand comes back onto your thigh and your head falls forwards again. And then onto the left arm. So as you breathe in, bring your left arm out to the side, bring your head up. As you exhale, your left hand comes onto your right shoulder, your head falls forwards. As you breathe in, your arm comes back out to the side, your head comes back up. And then as you exhale, hand back to your thigh, let your head fall forwards. Back to the right side, so breathing in, let your head come up, let your arm come out to the side. Exhale, your hand comes onto your left shoulder, your head falls forward. You can let your back round out a bit. Breathing in, bring your arm back out to the side. And then exhale, your hand comes onto your thigh, your head falls forwards. Onto the left side, breathing in, bring your arm out to the side, your head comes up. Exhale, your hand onto your right shoulder, your head falls forwards, the back can round out. Breathing in, your arm out to the side. And then exhaling, your hand back onto your thigh, let your head fall forwards. We're going to try this once more on each side. So breathing in, your right arm out to the side. Exhaling that hand onto your left shoulder, your head falls forwards. Breathing in, your arm out to the side. Exhaling, hand onto your thigh, let your head fall forwards. Breathing in, left arm out to the side. Exhaling, hand onto your right shoulder, head falls forwards. Breathing in, arm out to the side. Exhaling, hand back to the thigh. And then just letting your head come back up to the center, letting yourself settle in sitting. Feeling a breath come in, feeling a breath leave you. In a moment, we're going to do a smaller movement for the neck here. We're going to repeat this 3 times as well. So breathing in the center. As you exhale, you're going to turn your head to the right. And you're going to breathe in as you bring your head back to the center. And as you exhale, turn your head to the left. Breathe in, bringing your head back to the center. And then as you breathe in, as you breathe out, you're going to let your head come up a little bit. As you breathe in, your head comes back to the center. And then as you exhale, let your head fall forwards. Breathe in back to the center. So we'll do this twice more. So exhaling, turn your head a little to the right. Breathing in back to the center. Exhale, turn your head to the left. Breathing in back to the center. Exhaling, letting your head come up a little bit, up and back a little bit. Just keep it comfortable. Breathing in back to the center. And then exhaling, letting your head fall forwards. Breathing in back to the center. So one last time, exhaling to the right. Breathing in back to the center. Exhaling to the left. Breathing in back to the center. Exhaling, letting the head come up. Breathing in back to the center. And then finally exhaling, letting your head fall forwards. And breathing in back to the center. And just let yourself have a breath or two in sitting. Letting your shoulders drop. You could do a little bit of circling or swaying if you like. And we'll fold forwards, we'll touch the hands to the ground. If you want to touch your forehead to the ground, you might need to come up a little bit, and then we'll lie down onto our backs. So it isn't particularly nice today. You might want a warm top or a blanket, so lie down onto your back. Yeah, you've got a little bit of time, so in fact, yes, I have I have a reading for you, and this is actually Lynn from a book that you bought me. You bought me, and the Tao Te Ching. So, and this is one of my favourite readings. So some of you will know this one. We haven't had it for a little while, but on a rather wet day, it's quite appropriate. It's about water and qualities of water. So settling down. So make sure as you settle that you can let your shoulders rest back on the floor. You might feel you want to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. You might want to pick up the back of your head in your hands and gently lengthen out the back of your neck. And as you settle down, and in a moment I'll read you this quote. Perhaps we have that sense of ourselves as being made up of a lot of water, the watery aspects to ourselves. And so often what we perhaps feel of ourselves is these aches and pains and tightness. And hopefully through yoga we find a bit more of this sense of the fluid aspects of ourselves. Best to be like water, which benefits the 10,000 things and does not contend. It pools where humans disdain to dwell, close to the Tao. Live in a good place. Keep your mind deep. Treat others well. Stand by your word. Make fair rules. Do the right thing. Work when it's time. Only do not contend, and you will not go wrong. Just let yourself have a few more quiet breaths, allowing the flow of your breath to move through your body like water, like the waves at the beach. Constant flow of the in-breath followed by the out-breath over and over again. So I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times, and just let yourself, if you can, carry on lying down till we reach the silence at the end of the 3rd sound. So thank you, everyone. I know some of you need to rush off to work. If you